Welcome to another PyPhysicsSandbox tutorial video. This one's on collision handling. So we can arrange it so that the sandbox calls a function every time that particular two objects collide. And we can do some interesting things with that. So to start with, we need to have some things to collide. So I'm going to create a floor that, as usual, covers the bottom part of the screen. And then I'm going to create a ball that's going to bounce and hit the floor. And as part of bouncing, it'll generate collision events that we can tie some code to. Okay, so if I run this right now, got my ball, hits the floor. So each of those bounces will be a collision event that we can do something with. So the way that we add a collision handler is to do add collision, and then you give it two shapes. The two shapes that you want to check for collisions between, and then the name of a function that gets called when those two shapes do collide. I'll call mine ball hits floor, and then I'm going to define ball hits floor up here. Now every collision handler takes in the two shapes and the point of collision. And every collision handler should by default return true. We'll see in a little bit when you might want to not return true and what the effect of that is. So to start with, let's just do something like change the color at random of the ball every time it hits the floor. So I'd mentioned in a previous one of these tutorials that you can define the color by giving it 3 numbers. And that's going to be off the side of the screen for you, but it's just another random.randint. So we're going to run this. Oh, what have I done here? I did ball.color instead of ball1.color. So let's go ahead and run that now that I'm using the right thing. There you go. Changes to a random color every single time it hits. And then you can see at the very end, it stops changing color because when it's at rest, it's no longer generating these collision events. So let's do something else here. Let's count how many collisions happen. And then if we get more than 10 collisions, we're going to return false. So basically the collision handler returns true to say continue handling this collision, and returns false to say ignore this collision entirely. So when it returns false, then the ball and the floor will no longer collide, and it slips right through the floor. So in the collision handler, you can selectively ignore collisions between two objects based on whatever criteria you want. And you can do whatever you want in this collision handler, of course. Don't have to just change the color. So hopefully you can think of some interesting ways to use collision handlers.